He laughed so hard he had to mute his mic. But what he didn't know was that the girl on the other end of the call wasn't just another student activist. She was the beginning of his end. Line 4. We've got Ariyah from Howard University. Go ahead. The familiar voice crackled across the airwaves. Smooth, rehearsed, unapologetically smug. Camden Kirk, conservative commentator, live radio veteran, and self-declared truth dealer, leaned forward in his chair, smirking. Ariyah took a breath. Not nervous, just measured. Hi, Mr. Kirk. I'm a freshman studying political science. I just wanted to ask, when you say systemic racism is a myth, are you speaking from research or just personal belief? There it was, polite, direct, and, in Kirk's world, unacceptable. The pause was brief. Then came the snort. Then the chuckle. Then a full-body laugh that seemed to shake the studio. Oh, a poli-sci freshman. Let me guess. First semester and already enlightened by your Critical Oppression 101 class? His producers chuckled in the background. Kirk leaned in again, venom disguised as charm. Listen, sweetheart. The only system keeping you down is the one telling you that your skin color gives you power to shut people like me up. Newsflash. This country gave you a scholarship, a seat in a lecture hall, and now a phone line to my show. That's not oppression, that's opportunity. Learn the difference. He clicked off her call. The show rolled on. But something had shifted. Within hours, the clip had been posted, clipped, captioned, memed, stitched, duetted. Kirk silences woke college girl. She thought she had facts. He had fire. Another entitled freshman gets schooled. But not everyone laughed. Not in one office. Far from the noise, in a federal building lined with soundproof walls and judicial plaques, Judge Laverne Green, Ariyah's mother, watched the replay on loop. She didn't blink, didn't speak, just pressed pause. Then opened her drawer and pulled out a sealed black folder marked Private. Audio and Media Holdings. Back on campus, Ariyah kept her head down. She skipped her afternoon ethics lecture. Not because she was afraid, but because she was tired. Tired of the reposts. Tired of the emails saying, "You embarrassed yourself." Tired of reading comments like, "She's probably on a diversity scholarship anyway." And most of all, tired of having to explain why it wasn't funny. That night, her mother called. Ariyah didn't want to answer, but she did. There was no lecture. Just one sentence. He laughed, baby, but he didn't know whose daughter you are. The next morning, a message pinged on her school inbox. Urgent. Campus News wants to feature you for a piece on student activism. We also got a media request from Fox. What do you want to say? Ariyah typed only 3 words. Not yet listening. But her mother? She was already drafting something else. Something far more permanent. What Camden Kirk didn't know was that he had just created a witness. And the girl he thought was just another college kid with an opinion was being trained by one of the most feared federal judges in the country. Some people speak to be heard, others wait, and make the whole world listen when it matters most. Words don't need fists to leave bruises. In fact, the worst ones don't hit you. They just stay. In your inbox, in your timeline, in the space between your name and someone's smirk. Ariyah Green, freshman at Howard University, didn't go to class that morning. She didn't cancel anything. She just didn't go. Instead, she sat in the campus cafe, earbuds in, staring at the same essay she had submitted 2 days ago. One that had argued how language shapes power. Ironic. She refreshed her phone. Another mention. Another repost of the radio clip. Another thread calling her another pampered activist who doesn't know how the real world works. Even in a school known for activism, she had become too much. Outside, students whispered, "She's that girl, right? Did you hear the full version? She sounded so smug." I mean, it was a dumb question anyway. No one said it to her face. They didn't need to. Isolation doesn't always scream. Sometimes it simply backs away slowly, until you're the only one left in the middle. Across town, her mother sat alone in her chambers, reviewing the show transcript line by line. Judge Green wasn't looking for offensive jokes. She was looking for patterns, phrases repeated across episodes, subtle tropes masked as comedy, systemic dismissal of women of color under the guise of debate. She circled one line. She sounded smart. That's what makes them dangerous. It wasn't spoken on air, but it was captured in the uncut producer's feed, which she had quietly requested through legal channels. The more she read, the less she blinked. That evening, over leftover lentil stew and chilled tea, Ariyah finally spoke. "I'm not sure who I made more uncomfortable, Kirk or my classmates." Her mother paused. "Why do you say that?" "Because no one sat near me today, and the ones who did looked like they were trying not to." Judge Green nodded, then said, "Power doesn't just fear loud voices. It fears voices that are too calm to dismiss." Ariyah pushed her spoon around the bowl. "I didn't think one question would do all this." Her mother leaned forward. "You didn't do this, you revealed it." Later that night, Ariyah's RA knocked. A note had been slipped under her dorm room door. Folded, typed, no signature. "Maybe if you people stopped whining and started working, we'd take you seriously." Attached, a screenshot of the radio clip. Paused at the moment she asked her question. She didn't cry. She didn't respond. She folded the note, placed it in a drawer, and whispered, "Still listening." On her desk, she placed a photo of her mother from the 90s, back when she was a public defender, back when she, too, had stood up alone. Before the robe. Ariyah didn't want to be brave. She just wanted to finish her degree, get her law school acceptance, build quietly. But silence wasn't building anything right now. It was breaking her apart. Meanwhile, Judge Green drafted an internal legal memorandum. Precedents of racialized public discourse in broadcast media. She attached one more item to her private folder. A 3-minute segment from another past Kirk broadcast. This one mocking a Latina professor who challenged him on education reform. A pattern was emerging, and patterns don't get ignored in federal court. The next day, Ariyah's constitutional law professor pulled her aside. "I watched the clip," he said. "You stayed composed. You didn't escalate. That was smart." She half nodded. "Thanks." He added, almost hesitantly, "Still, next time, maybe choose a better target. You're not invincible yet." She stared at him, then asked, "How much older do I have to be before it's safe to ask questions in public?" He didn't answer. That night, she received an email from the Ethics and Speech Coalition, a nonpartisan student group. "We're organizing a town hall on media accountability. You're invited to speak." She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She just clicked "Keep as unread" and stared at it for a very long time, because part of her wanted to stay quiet. But the other part was starting to feel like maybe, just maybe, this wasn't about her anymore. It's never just one voice. It's the first one that makes others realize they have one too. Camden Kirk had always known how to toe the line. He danced around legality with the elegance of a man who'd spent years turning prejudice into punchlines. Just clever enough to sound like commentary, just cruel enough to keep people watching. So when his mocking exchange with Ariyah Green went viral, he didn't panic. He doubled down. "Look," he said in the next episode, his tone performative and casual, "if a college freshman calls into my show thinking she can teach me about systemic injustice, I reserve the right to laugh." His fans loved it. He leaned further. "They think being in college makes them philosophers. Newsflash, student loans don't buy you wisdom." The audience roared, but something shifted, because this time people were listening closer, including the wrong people. A formal inquiry was launched, quietly, not by the press, not by his sponsors, but by the Office of Broadcast Integrity, a division of the FCC, following a private complaint submitted by Judge Laverne Green, citing suspected patterns of racially charged off-air conduct. The request was simple: Please provide the uncut audio files of the September 14th broadcast, including all between-segment recordings and internal feeds. His producer scoffed when it came in. "Routine compliance," he said. "We've gotten these before." So they sent it? But what they didn't remember was what was captured just after Ariyah hung up. "She sounded too polished," one producer said off mic. "The dangerous kind." Camden laughed. "Don't worry. She'll burn out trying to sound reasonable. The media's not built for calm black girls. It's built to bury them under labels like angry or woke. Let them stay calm. We'll still win the edit." Click, silence, then a chuckle. That segment was never aired, but now it sat in a federal folder labeled Exhibit 4A, and Judge Green had just listened to it for the third time. She closed her laptop, removed her glasses, and whispered, "Not anymore." Back on campus, Ariyah tried to avoid the noise, but the noise came anyway. She found herself featured in an anonymous student forum. Some people weaponize identity like it's a scholarship. She knew what she was doing. Another post read, "She wanted attention. Now she's crying about it? That's not activism. That's narcissism." Even worse were the messages pretending to be supportive. "You're so articulate. I mean that as a compliment." She started deleting them without reading, not because she was numb, but because she didn't have the energy to educate people one by one anymore. Her mother emailed her a transcript, one she'd annotated herself, not of Ariyah's clip, of 3 previous episodes from Kirk's show, all featuring black women being interrupted, reduced, mocked, edited down for entertainment. Attached was a note. "It's not personal, it's procedural." Ariyah stared at it, then opened a blank document titled Patterns of Media Framing, a case study. Meanwhile, news began to leak, first through anonymous media insiders. Unreleased Kirk audio raises ethical concerns. Former intern. It was always about making them crack. Then came the whistleblower. A former assistant producer named Devin James posted a public statement. "I left because I couldn't laugh at it anymore. I watched us manipulate student callers into meltdowns just for viral moments. Ariyah Green was the first one we couldn't break. And that scared them." Back at her dorm, Ariyah received an unexpected call from her university's media department. "We're getting national press interest. Do you want to issue a statement?" She paused, then said, "I'll let the audio speak for itself." Camden Kirk, meanwhile, sat across from a lawyer in a closed-door meeting. "This is bigger than a clip," the lawyer said. "They're alleging systemic manipulation of vulnerable callers. That includes students, minors, people of color." Kirk leaned back, arms crossed. "They can't prove intent." The lawyer didn't blink. "They don't have to." That night, Ariyah watched a live stream of her mother speaking before the Federal Communications Oversight Panel. She didn't yell. She didn't dramatize. She simply read excerpts from 6 different transcripts, then closed with, "When the same tone, the same bias, and the same dismissiveness appear across years of content targeting the same group, that is no longer entertainment. That is design." Ariyah closed the laptop, opened the blank document again, and typed her first sentence. "Sometimes, the moment they try to humiliate you is the exact moment they reveal themselves." Truth doesn't need to trend. It just needs to survive long enough for the right person to recognize the pattern. The audio went viral in under 6 hours. No video, no edit, no deniability. Just the unmistakable voices of Camden Kirk and his team, laughing, mocking, admitting. "She'll burn out trying to sound reasonable." But Ariyah didn't feel victorious. She felt exposed. In class, no one spoke to her. In the dining hall, people glanced, then looked away. In her group chat for African American Studies, someone left silently. No explanation. She was trending, and somehow still alone. The messages flooded in, some supportive, some laced with backhanded sympathy. "You're so brave. I could never handle that kind of attention." Others were cruel. "You're not Malcolm X. You're just a girl who got lucky with a scandal." And then the worst? You made it harder for the rest of us. Thanks for ruining campus." At night, Ariyah started sleeping with her phone on silent and the hallway light on. She began checking her blinds twice, then 3 times, then started skipping meals altogether, because every time she walked across campus, she wondered if the next stranger who stared too long was just curious or angry. Judge Green noticed the shift immediately. She didn't ask. She knew. Instead, she bought her daughter noise-canceling headphones and left a note on her desk. "You are not their headline. You are their interruption." But even that didn't stop the spiral. One morning, Ariyah woke up to a package outside her dorm room door. No label. No return address. Inside, a piece of notebook paper with the words, "You're not the voice of justice. Just another girl who will be forgotten next semester." And a matchstick taped to the corner. Just one. The university called an emergency meeting. Not to support her. To evaluate campus-wide reputational impact. Her dean called her in. "This is complicated, Ariyah. We're getting pressure from donors, from alumni. Maybe it's best if you take a leave of absence. Let things cool down." She blinked, swallowed, then asked, "So I get harassed, threatened, and your solution is to disappear me quietly?" He hesitated. "That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant." And she walked out. That night she didn't speak during dinner. She didn't cry. She just sat across from her mother, picking at pasta that had long gone cold. Then finally, "You ever regret it?" Judge Green looked up. "Regret what?" "Not staying quiet." A beat. Then her mother nodded slowly. "Every time someone I fought for lost." Ariyah's eyes fell. "But you kept going?" "I didn't keep going because I didn't feel pain," Judge Green said. "I kept going because I did." Later, she handed Ariyah a sealed envelope. Inside, a copy of an old court document. Darius Cole versus the State of Maryland, 1998. The name hit hard. Ariyah remembered it. Her mother had never told the full story. Underlined in red, plaintiff found dead in custody. Suicide ruled inconclusive. No further inquiry. Attached was a sticky note. "He didn't get to speak. You still can." That night, Ariyah finally opened the invitation again. Youth Voices for Accountability. Student Forum Live Broadcast. She clicked accept, not because she felt brave, but because she finally understood. The silence wasn't protecting her. It was protecting them. She spent the next morning writing in the student union, hood pulled low, headphones in. Not a speech, a letter. To every black girl who's ever been told. Be quiet or be labeled. Be soft or be erased. Be silent or be safe. And for the first time in days, her hand stopped trembling. The letter ended with one line. "If you're afraid, it means you still care. But if you're silent, they'll never know you exist." She hit print and folded it twice. Some truths demand to be shouted. Hers, she would say at once, clearly, and let the echo do the rest. They called it silence. But it was never silence. It was survival, until someone dared to speak. Before she was Judge Green, before federal hearings and closed-door panels, she was just Laverne, a 26-year-old public defender in Baltimore with a rented suit, chipped heels, and fire in her eyes. The year was 1998, and her client was Darius Cole, a 17-year-old black honor student arrested outside a convenience store for matching the description. There was no weapon, no fingerprints, just one shaky eyewitness, and a prosecutor eager to prove zero tolerance worked. Laverne fought hard, filed motions, presented alibis, cross-examined the officer who admitted under oath that he just had a gut feeling. But the jury didn't blink. All white, all older. They convicted Darius of attempted robbery. 15 years. Laverne still remembered the moment the verdict dropped. How he didn't cry. He just looked at her and said, "I thought being smart would be enough." 2 months later, he was found dead in his cell. Suicide, they said. But Laverne never believed that, because she still had his last letter, handwritten in pencil. You were the only one who believed I wasn't what they saw. If I ever get out, I'm going to work for justice, like you." He never got out, and she never forgave the silence that let him disappear. That was the moment she changed. Not her mission, her method. She realized justice didn't move through fire. It moved through structure. So she climbed clerkships, appeals, federal certification, and finally, a robe. She didn't wear it for prestige. She wore it because it shut down rooms that used to talk over her. Years later, she'd hear Camden Kirk's name for the first time, not in court, on television, mocking a woman who dared to cry on air after her son was deported. Maybe if she'd taught him the law instead of emotions, we wouldn't be here. The audience laughed. Laverne didn't. She just wrote his name on a post-it, filed it, and waited. Now, 2 decades later, he was mocking her daughter, and this time she didn't write a post-it. She wrote a complaint. That night, she pulled out an old box from the back of her closet. Inside, her original bar ID, a legal pad, a photo of Darius smiling on courthouse steps, and a worn manila folder labeled Unresolved, Cole v. Maryland. She opened it. On top was a clipping from a 2001 op-ed written by a young media columnist. Name Camden Ross Kirk. The title, Why We Should Stop Glorifying the Wrongfully Accused. He had written, "Too many victims today are simply well-spoken criminals. They learn to play the system using sympathy as a shield." She circled the sentence. Twice. The next morning, Ariyah noticed the box on her mother's desk. "What's that?" she asked. Judge Green didn't answer immediately. Instead, she said, "When I lost Darius, I swore I'd never let the system eat another kid I believed in." A pause. "You're not on trial, Ariyah, but you're on record, and that means the burden you carry isn't just yours anymore." Later that day, Ariyah included a new slide in her forum speech. What happens to those who didn't get a mic? Whose stories were never edited because they were never aired? She added a photo of Darius. No caption, just his name and the year he died. That night she drafted a separate letter. To the ethics board, not as a victim, as a witness. Some voices echo even after they're silenced, if someone is willing to carry them forward. The forum was 5 days away. The world thought she was preparing to speak. But Ariyah wasn't rehearsing lines. She was studying patterns. She sat in the law library, laptop open, 3 tabs running side by side. Camden Kirk broadcast transcripts, archived FCC complaints, research paper, racialized framing in political media. While other students debated cancel culture in dorm kitchens, she was collecting receipts. Not to cancel, to prove design. 1 clip might be a bad moment. 10 clips is a strategy. Judge Green passed her a folder. Inside, a printed email from 2016 recovered by a legal contact. Subject: Target segments, this week's callers. It listed names, races, political views. Next to one name, Black 19 strong voice, baitable, push until emotional. Signed by Kirk's former senior producer. Ariyah stared at it. They don't just react to us, they script us. She created a slide deck titled The Theater of Objectivity. Each slide showed side-by-side comparisons of how Kirk responded to black callers versus white callers with identical arguments. The difference wasn't volume, it was tone, word choice, pauses. She highlighted it all. Not for drama, for documentation. Meanwhile, her mother was preparing too. Not as a judge, as a mother who'd watched justice skip over her client 25 years ago. She coordinated with the Office of Broadcast Oversight, cross-referencing whistleblower statements with public footage. Every clip became a breadcrumb, and every breadcrumb pointed back to Camden Kirk's pattern of turning black thought into spectacle. Back in Ariyah's dorm, her RA left a sticky note. You inspire people, even the ones who are too scared to show it yet. She folded it and slid it into her laptop case, then wrote on her mirror, I'm not here to survive this, I'm here to expose it. The Ethics and Accountability Forum announced its lineup. Student activists, professors, 1 congresswoman, and Camden Kirk. He had agreed to appear, live, in person. When Ariyah saw the news, her stomach turned. She texted her mother. "He'll be there." Her reply, "Then speak, don't perform." The next day, Ariyah got an anonymous file upload from Devin James, the former producer who first spoke out. The folder was titled, Extras Never Aired. Inside, uncut segments, raw logs, and one audio note labeled, "She was too smart, should have cut the feed sooner." Voice, Camden Kirk. She didn't flinch. She added it to the archive. Then came the campus pushback, an op-ed in the student paper. Is Ariyah Green elevating awareness or inflating herself? Another flyer posted near her lecture hall. Justice isn't performance. Stop making it about you. She didn't tear them down. She took photos, cataloged them. Proof that truth without packaging still makes people uncomfortable. The night before the event, Judge Green laid out a folder on the table. It wasn't law. It was her own story. Her failure with Darius, her silence about it for decades. "You're not just my daughter," she told Ariyah. "You're my second chance to get it right." Ariyah didn't answer. She just nodded. Once. Like someone stepping into a courtroom with no intention of losing. She didn't sleep much. 3 hours, maybe 4. But she didn't rehearse either. She wasn't there to win. She was there to remember, to record, to remind. At 8 a.m., she dressed in a plain black blouse, navy slacks, and borrowed earrings from her mother. No makeup, no smile, just presence. Before leaving, she wrote one line at the bottom of her printed speech. "This time the mic belongs to me." Then she walked out the door, not as a college freshman, not as someone who got lucky with a viral moment, but as someone who finally understood that preparation doesn't have to be loud to be revolutionary. Some people rehearse for applause. Others prepare for the moment the truth no longer. The auditorium wasn't grand. Just folding chairs, fluorescent lights, a podium flanked by 2 tables. One marked Student Advocates. The other, Media and Policy Respondents. Ariyah sat in the front row, folder in hand. She had no entourage, no press team, just a stack of documents and her mother's earrings. Camden Kirk arrived 5 minutes before the live stream. Cameras swiveled, staff whispered. He wore a crisp navy suit, pocket square folded too carefully, confidence rehearsed. He greeted the moderator with a handshake, then looked across the aisle, straight at Ariyah, and smirked. The moderator began, "Today's forum is not a courtroom. It's not a debate stage. It's a space for voices, especially those long ignored, to speak freely and be heard fully." Then he gestured. "Ariyah Green, the floor is yours." She stood slowly, no smile, no dramatics, just her voice, clear, focused, steady. They didn't expect me to speak calmly. They expected me to lash out, lose control, prove their script. But I wasn't here to perform rage. I was here to outline reality. She held up the 2016 email, read from it. Black 19, strong voice, baitable, push until emotional, gasps, then silence. She turned to Kirk's side of the room. I wasn't mocked because I was wrong. I was mocked because I was articulate, calm, and inconvenient. Kirk shifted in his seat. The moderator leaned in. "Mr. Kirk, would you like to respond?" He tapped the mic. "Look, I regret how things sounded. I do. But we're living in a hypersensitive age. You can't villainize every broadcaster who challenges the narrative. That's not justice. That's censorship." Ariyah didn't even blink. "You didn't challenge me. You curated me. You clipped me for sound bites. You didn't fear my ideas. You feared my tone, because it didn't fit the caricature your audience prefers." Her words weren't loud, but they hit like a verdict. She continued. "You once said, 'Let them stay calm. We'll still win the edit.' Today I came unedited. So here's the part you usually cut." She held up her last slide, a black and white photo of Darius Cole. No title, just, "What you don't get to clip." Kirk looked down. For the first time, no words. No joke, no laugh, just silence. A beat, then another. then clapping. Not a roar, not performative. Just the kind of clap that says, "Finally, someone said it." Ariyah sat down. Someone whispered, "That wasn't a speech, that was a blueprint." Later, in the hallway, a student stopped her. "I used to think staying quiet made me safe," they said. "But you proved silence just makes space for people like him." She nodded, didn't reply. Some moments don't need commentary, just recognition. Back in her dorm that night, Ariyah opened her laptop. A message from Devin James was waiting. Subject, last one, the tape that ends it. She didn't click right away. She stared at the subject line, because for the first time since the call-in, she realized this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone who'd ever been told. You're too young. You're too angry. You're too much. And yet, somehow never enough to be taken seriously. Until now. Some voices echo not because they're loud, but because they speak in rooms that were never built to hold them. The file was short. 59 seconds. Unedited. Time-stamped. Archived by mistake. Leaked by design. Camden Kirk's voice. No filters, no showtime. Honestly, she was perfect. Smart, calm, black, confident. Our audience hates that. You bait her just right, let her talk long enough, and boom, they stop trusting her the moment she sounds too reasonable. A second voice added. Off mic. Didn't even need to clip her. She made the mistake of showing up educated. Laughter. Then Kirk again. We don't silence them. We just make them echo wrong. Ariyah played the file in her dorm room. Alone. Then again. Then again. Each time it didn't hurt less, but it hit cleaner. This wasn't slander. This was strategy. And now, it was evidence. She forwarded it to her mother, to Devin James, to the Federal Ethics Committee. And then, just before midnight, she posted it. Publicly. No caption. No hashtag. Just the truth. Raw. The next morning, everything exploded. Kirk leak. Echo wrong. Justice speaks. Clips circulated. Influencers reacted. Professors used it in lectures. Journalists called it the Rosetta Stone of coded racism in modern media. Sponsors fled. Legal analysts went live. Former employees stepped forward. And in a press conference outside a courthouse in D.C., Judge Laverne Green stood flanked by 2 ethics officers. The file you all heard is not just a comment. It is a confession. For years, broadcast power has hidden behind performance, behind humor, behind selective editing. This time, the camera was turned the other way, and what we saw was not an accident. It was architecture. Ariyah didn't attend the press conference. She watched it from her dorm window, with headphones in, volume low, heart calm, not because she didn't care, but because she knew. The mic wasn't hers anymore. It was echoing through 1,000 other voices now. Hours later, her inbox flooded, not with hate, but with messages like, I used to think I was overreacting. You gave me language I didn't have? They did the same thing to me in a job interview. But the one that hit hardest came in a hand-addressed envelope, from Darius Cole's mother, inside a short letter. He said once that justice might never find him. I think, maybe, it waited for someone strong enough to carry him. Thank you for not letting my son be forgotten. And below it, a copy of the original complaint from 1998, with one line circled in red. Defendant insisted he was just a voice no one wanted to hear. The next day, Ariyah received formal notice. Camden Kirk's license to broadcast on all federally regulated platforms is hereby revoked, pending permanent disqualification under Section 2.7 of the Broadcast Ethics Code. She didn't post about it. She didn't celebrate. She opened her laptop. Started a draft. Echo Management, a study in broadcast framing and cultural power. Because this wasn't the end. It was source material. At the final student forum of the year, a freshman stood up nervously and asked, How do we know it's worth it? Speaking up, I mean. Ariyah didn't smile. She just said, Because the minute they try to stop you is the minute they admit you're already being heard. Later, on her way out, She saw a flyer on the hallway wall. "This mic is open. Let's use it wisely." Underneath, a new student group logo, started by people she'd never even met. Somewhere, far from campus, Camden Kirk sat in a studio he no longer had the right to use. The on-air light stayed off. The mic unplugged. He watched the clip again, the one with her speech, the slide of Darius. He closed the laptop, and for the first time, he had nothing to say. The verdict doesn't always come in court. Sometimes it comes in silence, when even the loudest man in the room finally goes quiet.